I'm going to start this meeting off. The mission of the Great Falls International Airport Authority is to optimize transport, service, and development in our region. The vision of the GFIAA is to maximize the airport's benefit to our region. We welcome and are pleased to remember that the board appreciates participation from the public. If you have comments throughout the board meeting or the work session, please stand, state your name and address, and your comments will be heard. With the quorum of the board present, I'm going to call the meeting to order with an attendance. Commissioner Smith? Here. Commissioner Evans?
Here.
Commissioner Ernst? Ritz?
Here.
Commissioner Tebow?
Here.
Timbo, sorry. And Commissioner Hogan, present. All right, well, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine day-to-day items that require board action, but do not appear to have significant public impact. Items may be pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion, vote by any board member. Items are A, approval of board minutes from August 27th, 2019. B, payroll checks totaling $89,657.15. C, maintenance and operations checks number 24,854 to 24,913. Canceled check number 24,906. Checks totaling $445,904.96. D, approval passenger facility charge totaling $60,000. And E, financial reports for August 2019.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The motion passes. Which brings us to the director's report.
Just briefly, the new furniture for the terminal is in. Got this sample here of the fabrics. They just came in the last day or so. And so we'll be replacing all that stained furniture out on the lobby on the second floor and down in the bag plane with this stuff over the next couple of, probably month or so as we put it all together. So that's great. Just briefly on the capital program, we did get our certificate of occupancy yesterday, Rob.
Well, we're still waiting, but we're able to move into the building.
Okay, so we're very near to having our certificate of occupancy
Everybody
for
signed off on it.
the SRE expansion. We had that little bit of issue with the fire suppression system and the pressures that we had to get through, and then the city's got to do one more walkthrough, but we're about to move into the building, so that's complete. The airfield work for the year is done, right, Chris? We've got the PAPI, hasn't been flight checked, but
The PAPI flight check will be tomorrow.
tomorrow, yep.
The seal coat and pavement marking maintenance project has been completed. The next schedule will be the runway weather information system that will be starting up in a few weeks.
Yeah. So that's the puck we've got to put in the pavement that'll give us the weather information. And then we've started some electrical work on the tank farm. The tank farm's probably still a couple weeks off before we get that underway. So still a couple more odds and ends, but the thrust of our main capital program this summer is complete. Fog seal's done, paint's done, the majority of the airfield work, and the PAPI is in place. We just have to get a flight check. So ideally that'll all be up and running tomorrow, just in time for the weather this weekend, which is great.
That's what I was going to ask, are the snowplows ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think everything looks like it's coming together pretty well on the capital plan. We did meet with 9 airlines a couple weeks ago down at the Big Sky Rendezvous in Big Sky, and really successful meetings. I thought Rebecca Ingham from Great Falls Tourism attended along with me, and really good conversations. All of the airlines are very interested in Montana in general now, which creates a lot of opportunity for us. We're a little behind on pulling the funding together for the low-cost airfare initiative. Shane and I actually gave a presentation this morning, but since 2011, there's been a lot of consolidation in Great Falls. When you look at the businesses that donated last time, many of them aren't around anymore or have been purchased by an out-of-town company, and so it's a little tougher to pull together that fund, but we do have some really good opportunities with a couple of the airlines right now for some new routes, and we're hoping to finish up this fall with some fundraising and maybe even have some headquarters meetings yet this year, and pull together some new air service. So exciting stuff. I think the time is great for Montana right now. There's certainly a lot of conversations amongst the airlines about new routes into the state, so that's really encouraging. But other than that, that's all I wanted to get through on that. And so that's all I've got.
All righty. Any questions for John? All right. Well, the one item we're looking at is the amending the annexation agreement for road maintenance with the city of Great Falls.
Yes, this issue goes back to the 95 annexation agreement that when the land from the city was moved into the airport. And in that agreement were a number of different provisions, one of which was that the roads would remain with the city and they would be responsible for maintenance of the roads. The problem with that number of things is as we've learned through the 911 Center, which is also in the annexation agreement, the FAA needs to be involved in any transfers of land, and the annexation agreement had several land transfers in it. Unfortunately, the FAA wasn't party to it, and so there's some problems with how that transfer happened. In addition, in practice, throughout that whole period prior to 95 and then up until now, airport improvement grant dollars were used by both us and the city to maintain the roads. So it was actually airport grant funds that had been used to build and maintain the roads throughout that period. I think we counted 6 or 7 grants that were used over the years. So in practice, it was actually grant dollars primarily used to maintain the roads, all of the snow plowing and everything. Guys have been doing for a long time now. And so the thought between our organizations is to try and clean that up and get rid of that. We need to get clear title to the land for certain before we can use any additional airport improvement funds on the roads. As you guys may recall, our plan next year currently is that we'll do some road maintenance from basically where the terminal loop starts over here by the Bison, and we'll go all the way through the intersection at Holman Aviation. As many of you know, FedEx and Holman and Avmax and pretty much everybody in that area for years has complained about that intersection. It's sort of a very early stage roundabout with very odd right-of-ways. And ideally what we want to do is straighten that out, make it into more of a T intersection and clean it up. We've had a number of accidents there over the years, and so we'd like to do that. However, for us to use any of those federal dollars, we have to be able to demonstrate that we have clear title. And so we need to amend the annexation agreement or strike another agreement in order to get that clarified so that we have a clean ownership title of the land. And as you may know, right now we're starting design for the 2020 program. We have to meet with the FAA in 2 weeks down in Helena to go through the capital program and submit our grants for the new fiscal year. Of course, the federal fiscal year starts in 2 weeks at the beginning of the year, fiscal year at the beginning of October, I should say. And so in order to get all that done, we need to get through the annexation agreement amendment and the City Council will hear that, we believe, on the 1st, the meeting on October 1st. So if we can get it approved and signed today, then we'll get that executed with the city and move on to design of the roads.
Okay.
Council Chair. I have 3 questions. Could I ask them all at one time, please?
Yep.
In the agreement, page 2, section number 14, is there any reason the most recent FAA opinion letter is not noted as one of the basis for our belief? Or
The recitals. So the latest draft of this effort is actually amending the 95 agreement.
Right.
Laura's trying to get that right now, and so the latest draft, the recitals have been taken out, and the city's actually reading the recitals in their motion. So they're more or less they're reading these, but they're not in the document. The document itself pulls out the recitals, and so this language won't be in the document.
so then on the following page, number 1, since we don't have Exhibit A, has it been examined closely and is determined to be as accurate as anyone could?
Yeah, so that was one of the last items that we've been discussing with the city and the staff. Initially, we were just going to have the roads, the public roads, but then late in the discussions, the city really wants all of the roads, to include even roads in the airfield, so that it's I guess clear that we're talking about all roads, which I think is fine. Many of those roads, like for instance inside of Mang, we have really no real idea what they have over there. We're not allowed on Mang, to roam around, and we don't typically include them in our AOP or anything else. But we're going to make our best effort using Google Earth to try and draw those in, so that we have essentially all the roads, including the vehicle service road, which is not a public road. That's just our service road is the best way to describe it. So the latest map that has been devised includes anything that we could call a road. I made the point, should we have the gravel roads? Yeah, this is kind of what we've got in there for a minute. So this is the last draft of the agreement, including the maps. But, because obviously there's gravel roads out there that are our service roads. There's even taxiways that we use as roads. So you could certainly have an argument about what roads are what, but I think the intent of the document is it's all roads,
And then the final question I have at this point, at the bottom of that page, number 7, it says if the city determines that the public roadways, et cetera, have ceased to be used. I'm not sure what the process is that happens, but should there be any flexibility for you or us to decide that as well, or is this strictly a city function?
Well, and it's a good question. I mean, the problem, again, is back to the FAA. So all of the land, all of the airport land was granted to the city and the county for use as an airport, and you're only allowed to use it for an airport. So realistically speaking, if the authority were to go away, the city can't use those roads for anything other than airport uses until the FAA releases them.
Okay.
So we're kind of back in that same problem of, we're missing a party in acknowledging in these agreements. So in effect, it can't happen that way. But I think what the city's saying is they don't want the roads to not be public roads. So somehow if we were able to sell the airport to a private investor or something like that, they don't want to see the roads become private roads. I understand their point of view. They want to have a claim on the road if we're not using the road. At the same time, there's still grant assurances dating back to when the land was granted to the city that would have to be fulfilled somehow. The few airports that have closed, there aren't very many, Most of them are military bases, but typically the whole thing is vacated to a city-county authority or something like that when an airport no longer exists. So it's there. I understand why they want it there. They don't want us to sell a road or not use a road and give it to someone or something like that. But in reality, this probably can't happen the way it's listed either. I know that's.
Okay. In other words, though, at this point, you're fine with letting it go?
I think it's fine when it says, I talked to Mick about that particular clause a little bit, and that we probably can't do what it says specifically, but to the extent the authority isn't there anymore and somehow the airport isn't being used as an airport, then we wouldn't want to see the road go to a neighbor, for instance, like if the highway department
Right.
quits using a right of way, that gets split between neighbors. Or maybe one neighbor gets all of it, depending on how those discussions go. The city is just trying to say, well, we want it back if you're not using it, which I think is reasonable. And so yeah, practically it probably can't happen, but I understand why they're putting it in there. So yeah, sorry about this. The agreement has now morphed from being a standalone agreement to amending the annexation agreement, which is this document here. And so all of the recitals that were in the front of the document, the city is reading those into their motion, but they're not in the document anymore.
Okay.
So we're not agreeing to those, but the city is reading them into the motion for the continuity of why they're amending the agreement.
Any other questions about the proposed amendment to the agreement of annexation?
The only other thing I'd point out is I think this is a better structure than what we had prior, because now we're actually addressing the master document. Before, it wasn't really clear which of these two would be senior, because you still have the annexation agreement saying something, and then you have this one that's just called agreement that had different language. And so, you would presume the latest one is most current, but it doesn't really, amend it. So both kind of live out there. I think this is a much more streamlined and effective way to do what we're trying to do in here.
And does this put to rest the street assessments forever and always?
Well, I can't say for certain. I mean, obviously, there's two parties in that discussion, or I mean, if you count the FAA, there's actually three parties in that discussion. But there is this language in here that that we won't have the street assessments going forward. I mean, let's see what I can find it here real quick.
It's number 4 on page 3.
Yeah, it's cut in half by the page
Oh,
one.
on the old one, I mean.
Yeah, on the new one, it's on the bottom of page 4 under number 4. I'm sorry, 1 under section 4, and then on page 2. So, I mean, it does acknowledge. I mean, that is one of the other problems with the annexation agreement is. From our perspective, or the FAA's perspective, the two problems were the transfer of land, which wasn't just the roads, it was also the 911 center in the annexation agreement, and then the assessments themselves. And so we're actually dealing with both of those problems in the agreement. Of course, as I said, I mean, there's always future interpretations and future airport boards and future city councils that might decide, this doesn't say what we think it says. But I think for right now, the answer is yes, that we think the street assessments are addressed here as best we can.
All right.
I'll make a motion that we recommend John move forward with the amendment agreement to annexation agreement dated April 4th, 1995, as presented here on the board.
I'll second it. All right. the motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Commissioner Smith?
No, fine.
All righty. Having been moved and seconded, no discussion, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? The motion carries. All right, that being our only item on the agenda,
Well, we have the light fixture. Are we doing the light fixture?
In the interest of keeping it brief,
Oh.
we don't have to.
Oh, it's fine, it's fine.
We can wait until
Oh, okay,
October.
okay.
Yeah.
oh, so on the agenda I have, this is the only item. So with that, I will ask for public comments. Any comments from the public? All right. Commissioner Smith, any comments? Commissioner Evans?
No.
Commissioner Timbo, okay. Commissioner Aretz? All right. Commissioner Hovind has none. With that, I will call this meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, gentlemen, for calling in. Appreciate it greatly.
that's
Be safe.
That's it.
I believe in all
You
my
got the
years.
record.
This was the fastest. Sorry, I didn't realize you were have the light fixture.
We dropped it. We didn't know if we'd be able to get anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dropped everything.
We tried to get it down to where someone just called in for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because for a minute it was going to be Vince between flights.
Oh, lovely.
This is the,
Okay.
Are you sure you don't want to come back on Friday? Do it again? I'm open.
the record meeting.
What happened?
So what we did is, wait a minute,
What?
I think he thinks.
What's that?
Well, we're just gonna say something. You sure?
What?
You're assessing your wrestling.
Age. 150 hours in 3 months. Where did they at?
Good for you.
Does anybody have a preference on November 5th versus the 15th? The city wants us to come and give a presentation at their evening meeting, 5:30. We haven't had real good attendance the last few.
So you want us to come?
If anybody wants to.
You said fifth versus.
15th.
15.
Week before Thanksgiving.
The 15th is Friday.
Oh,
We
wait,
don't meet on Friday.
that's not right. It's gotta be, it's that Tuesday. Wait a minute.
The
The
12th?
19th.
19.